Welcome, dear traveler. Tonight you are not going far. There is a small workshop on a quiet cobblestone street just nearby. A candlemaker's workshop. Ancient, humble. The working day is finished hours ago, but the candles are still burning. The wax is still warm. The air inside is thick with the sweetest smell you have ever breathed in a working place. Honey, beeswax, the faintest trace of herbs hanging from the beams. And beneath all of it, the deep mineral cold of very old stone. If these stories bring you peace and rest, please subscribe to my channel. New sleep stories arrive every week, each one crafted carefully to carry you away from the noise of the day and into the deepest rest your body is asking for. It means everything to have you here. Thank you. Now, put the day down, not gradually, all at once. Simply decide that it is finished and set it aside the way the candlemaker sets down tools at the end of a long, honest day, deliberately, without regret. The work is done. The hours have been spent. What remains now is only this, only the evening, only the permission to stop. Find your position. Let it be the most comfortable arrangement your body knows. Feel the weight of yourself settling, every part of you moving downward. Shoulders, hips, legs, feet, everything releasing toward the surface beneath you, which receives it all without effort, without complaint. You do not need to hold yourself up any longer. Nothing is required of you now except this: breathing, being, resting. Notice your breath. Do not change it yet. Simply observe it, the way it enters without being invited, the way it leaves without being instructed. This faithful rhythm that has accompanied every moment of your life without ever asking for attention or thanks. It is here now, steady, patient, yours. Breathe in slowly. Let the air travel all the way down. Feel your chest expand. Feel your ribs widen slightly. Feel the space inside you opening. Breathe out completely. Every last measure of breath leaving. The body emptying itself fully before the next breath comes. In, something loosens in the shoulders. Out, something releases in the jaw. In, the hands open slightly. Out, the mind grows quieter. In, cool, air entering. Out, everything the day left behind, departing with the warmth of it. Your body is already responding. It knows this invitation. It has been waiting for it since morning. Every hour of the day, it carried everything asked of it without complaint. Now it is being told it can rest, and it believes you. It is already beginning. Continue breathing in this way. No particular technique, no correct method, only slower than before, only a little deeper, only a little more present in each breath than in the one before. The mind will wander. That is its nature. When it does, bring it back here, to this breath, to this moment, to the weight of your body and the rhythm of your chest and the darkness behind your eyes. The candlemaker's workshop waits, small, warm, fragrant with beeswax and dried herbs and the sweet ghost of a day spent working with fire and wax and wick. The candles are burning. The embers in the hearth are still alive beneath their gray surface. The finished candles hang from the ceiling beams in the stillness, pale and perfect, cooling slowly in the quiet air. Dear traveler, there is nothing to make tonight, nothing to dip or pour or trim or arrange. The work of this place is done for the day, and what remains is only the atmosphere it leaves behind. The warmth, the scent, the soft light of candles burning in a low-ceilinged room where everything smells of honey and everything glows amber, and the whole world outside has gone completely quiet. Breathe in. The beeswax is warm. Breathe out. The workshop is waiting. Breathe in. The candles are burning. Breathe out. The night is deep and still. In. You are almost there. Out. The door is just ahead. One more breath. Long, complete, filling every part of you with this readiness, this openness, this willingness to be carried somewhere warm and quiet and deeply restful. And now we begin, gently, quietly, together. The cobblestone street is empty. Every building along it has gone dark. The baker's shutters are closed. The weaver's door is bolted. The inn at the far end has extinguished its lantern. One by one across the course of the evening, the lights of this small medieval street have gone out until only one remains. One small window. One warm glow, amber and steady and alive in the surrounding darkness, like something that has decided tonight it will not go out, like something that has made a quiet promise to burn a little longer. The candlemaker's workshop. The street itself is beautiful in the way that very old streets are beautiful at night. Each one a different size and shape fitted together by hands that understood the work, that took pride in it, that knew the street they were building would outlast them by centuries. Moonlight falls across the cobblestones at a low angle, turning them silver, where the light touches and leaving deep shadow in the gaps between them. The whole street a pattern of silver and shadow, stretching from one end to the other in the quiet night. Your footsteps on the cobblestones are the only sound. Each step a soft contact. Stone beneath leather. The solidity of the street coming up through the soles of your feet with every pace. The air around you is cool, clean, the particular coolness of a late night in a small medieval town when all the fires have been banked and all the cooking smells have settled, and what remains is simply the night air itself, unhurried, clear, carrying nothing except the faint suggestion of wood smoke from chimneys and the deeper, earthier smell of the cobblestones themselves, still holding the moisture of an earlier rain. The workshop is at the end of a short lane that branches from the main street, narrower here. The buildings on either side, leaning slightly toward each other, overhead the way old timber-framed buildings do, their upper floors projecting out over the lane and narrowing the strip of sky above to a dark ribbon scattered with stars. The lane is quieter than the street, as if it exists slightly outside the ordinary world, as if the buildings on either side are keeping a secret between them, and the lane is where the secret lives. A wooden sign hangs above the workshop door. You cannot read it in the darkness, but its shape is clear. A carved candle. Simple, unmistakable. It hangs perfectly, still in the windless night air. Below it the door. Oak, dark with decades of handling. The door fits its frame the way things fit when they have been in the same place long enough to settle into each other completely. Worn, familiar, right. The window beside the door is small. A single pane of old glass, thick and imperfect, the kind that distorts everything seen through it into something slightly dreamlike. And through it the light. Warm amber candlelight pressing outward into the cool lane. Not bright, not demanding, simply present. The quiet light of a place that has been lit for a long time and is comfortable with its own illumination. From the other side of the door, something reaches you. So faint at first you are not certain. It is real. A smell, sweet, warm, unlike anything else in the cool night air of the lane. Beeswax, pure and unmistakable. The deep honey sweetness of wax that has been melted and worked and shaped across an entire day. It has soaked into the very grain of the door, into the stone of the doorstep beneath your feet. It comes from inside the building and from the building itself simultaneously, because after years of this work, the two things have become inseparable. The workshop and the smell are one thing now. Dear traveler, stand here for a moment before you enter. Feel the coolness of the night at your back, the warmth pressing through the door ahead, the smell of beeswax surrounding you already even here on the doorstep. Look up through the narrow gap between the leaning buildings above at the stars visible in the ribbon of sky overhead. They are very clear tonight, very steady, each one burning its own faithful light across an unimaginable distance. They have been burning above this lane since before the lane existed, since before the first stone of the first building was laid. They will burn long after everything below them has returned to earth. There is something in that thought that is not frightening but restful. The stars continuing, the night continuing, everything that needs to continue, continuing, without any help from you. The iron latch is cold beneath your hand, smooth with use. You lift it, and it rises easily. The mechanism simple and reliable. The door swings inward on its old hinges without sound, as if it has been waiting for exactly this, as if the whole long evening has been a preparation for this one quiet opening. The smell reaches you fully now, no longer filtered through wood and glass, direct, complete, beeswax warm and honey sweet. Beneath it something herbal, dried lavender perhaps, or rosemary, bundles of it hanging somewhere in the room, contributing their dry fragrance to the air. And beneath both of those the deeper, older smell of the workshop itself, tallow, iron, the mineral cold of stone. Decades of smoke from the hearth absorbed into the walls and the beams, and the mortar between the stones, until the building itself has become a kind of slow fragrance, a smell of time, of work, of all the days that have been spent in this room doing the same patient, faithful task. The room is low, the ceiling beams dark and heavy directly overhead. Between them the plaster ceiling smoke stained to a deep amber that catches the candlelight and seems to glow faintly from above. The floor is stone, worn flagstones smoothed by years of feet moving between hearth and workbench and dipping vat. The walls stone also, thick, old, their surface rough and uneven where the plaster has worn away in places showing the gray stone beneath. And everywhere the candles, finished candles hanging from the ceiling beams in pairs on their dipping frames. Long tapers suspended side by side, their lower ends pointing toward the floor, their surfaces smooth and pale, ivory, cream, the faintest warm yellow of pure beeswax, where the candlelight catches them at the right angle. There are dozens of them, perhaps more. They fill the upper part of the room like a strange and beautiful harvest, hanging still in the closed air, cooling toward their final form. On the stone workbench along the far wall, pillar candles in various stages of completion, some in iron molds still, others removed and standing independently on the bench surface, smooth-sided, solid, waiting. A row of small votive candles near the window, shorter and wider, their surfaces bearing the slight imperfections of handwork, the small variations that no two made by the same hands will ever look quite identical. 3 candles are burning in the workshop, one on the workbench in an iron holder, one on the shelf above the hearth, one on the windowsill where it has been casting its light outward into the lane all evening. Their flames are perfectly still. No draught moves in this closed room. Each flame burns straight and upright, a small column of living light that neither hurries nor hesitates. They have been burning for hours. They will burn for hours more. They are in no rush to reach their end. The hearth occupies the left wall, stone built, deep. The fire within it has burned down now to embers, deep red and orange glowing beneath a surface of pale gray ash. The iron pot that held the melting wax has been moved aside and rests on the hearthstone cooling. The wax within it has solidified into a smooth golden surface, still, perfect, like a small frozen lake of amber catching the ember light. Above the hearth, the chimney breast is dark with years of smoke, the stone of it stained deep gray and black in a widening pattern that records every fire ever lit in this hearth. Every day of work, every cauldron of melting wax, every long winter morning when the first task was to build the fire back up and set the pot to warm. All of it recorded in the smoke stains on the stone above. A kind of history that requires no words. Dear traveler, you are inside now. The lane is behind you. The cool night air is outside, where it belongs. Here, there is only warmth and amber light, and the deep, sweet smell of a candlemaker's workshop settling into its nightly rest. The tools are laid aside. The work is finished. The candles hang cooling above you and burn steadily around you, and the whole room breathes its fragrant air slowly in and out, as if the workshop itself is already beginning to sleep. Move further inside now. Let the door close gently behind you. Let the warmth and the smell and the soft amber light of this ancient working place receive you completely. The workbench waits ahead. The hearth glows softly to your left. And the candles, all those pale and patient candles hanging above, are perfectly still. The workbench is the heart of this room. You understand that immediately, even before you have moved toward it. Even standing near the door with the last trace of the cool lane air still on your back, the workbench draws the eye the way that the most important thing in any room always draws the eye. Not because it is beautiful, though in its own way it is. Not because it is grand, because it is the opposite of grand. It is worn and stained and marked by decades of the same work, performed in the same place day after day, across more years than anyone still living can accurately count. It is the heart of this room, because everything in the room exists in relation to it. The hearth exists to melt the wax that will be brought to the workbench. The hanging frames above exist to hold the candles that were built at the workbench. The shelves exist to store the materials that will be used at the workbench and the finished goods that will leave it. Everything flows toward and away from this long stone surface the way rivers flow toward and away from their source. Move closer to it now. Let your feet carry you across the flagstone floor, each step quiet in the stillness of the room. The floor is uneven beneath your feet, not uncomfortably so. Simply honest. The flagstones each slightly different in thickness, each worn differently depending on where the most feet have passed across them most often. A slight depression in the path between the door and the workbench. A smoother patch near the hearth. The floor tells the story of every working day this room has ever contained. Every back and forth between fire and bench. Every morning beginning and every evening ending. All of it recorded in the worn stone beneath your feet. The workbench surface when you reach it and rest your hands upon it is extraordinary. Cold at first. The stone itself, always cold, no matter how warm the room. But covered in something that is not cold at all. Wax, layers and layers of it accumulated over years beyond counting. Ivory and cream and the deeper amber of older deposits laid down long ago and covered since by newer layers. The wax has flowed and cooled and flowed again in the heat of working days and the cool of nights until it has built up into a landscape of its own across the stone surface. Small hills and valleys. Ridges where wax ran along a crack in the stone and filled it. Pools where it gathered at a low point and stayed. Frozen rivers of it where it ran from the edge of a full dipping vat and traveled across the bench before cooling into long smooth shapes. The whole surface is a record of work, of the countless gallons of wax that have been melted and poured and shaped in this room. You could read the history of this workshop in the layers of its workbench surface if you knew how. Run your fingers along it slowly. Feel the texture change. Hear smooth where the wax is thick and old and polished by hands. They're rough where a newer layer cooled quickly and kept the texture of its cooling. In one place, a long groove worn into the wax where some tool has been drawn across this same spot, so many times it has left its mark. The workbench receives your touch the way very old things receive attention, without surprise, without response, simply accepting it. Having received the touch of so many hands across so many years, that one more is simply part of what it does. Part of what it is? The smell here at the workbench is strongest. The wax surface releases its sweetness into the air at this close distance in a way that fills every breath completely. Not heavy, not cloying, simply present. A warmth in the nose that matches the warmth in the room. Honey and something beneath honey. Something earthier. The smell of the hive itself. Of the bees that made this wax in the first place, going about their own patient, faithful work in the warmth of summer. Their work and the candlemaker's work connected. The summer meadow and this winter workshop connected. The flowers and the flames connected through the long, patient process of wax, moving from one form to another and another until it becomes finally this. Light, warmth, the gentle illumination of a medieval workshop at the end of a working day. The candle burning on the workbench in its iron holder is the closest flame to you now. You can see it properly from here. Observe it without deciding to. The flame is a complete world in miniature. At its base the wick, dark and thin, the origin of everything. Around the wick a small pool of liquid wax, perfectly clear and still, catching the light of the flame above it and holding it. The flame itself rising from this pool in a shape that is always the same and never the same. The deep blue at its very base, where the combustion is hottest and most complete. The amber and gold above, that making up the body of the flame. The bright tip at the top, where the light is most intense. And around all of it, the faintest shimmer of heat rising into the air above the flame and distorting it very slightly, a barely visible halo of warmth. The flame does not hurry. It has no reason to hurry. It will burn at exactly this pace until the wax beneath it is consumed, or until someone extinguishes it deliberately. It has no knowledge of time, no awareness of the hour or the depth of the night, or the fact that everything else in the workshop has finished for the day. It simply burns, faithfully, completely, one moment and then the next, with no gap between them, and no variation in its commitment to this single simple act of giving light and warmth to this room. Dear traveler, bring your attention to your own breathing now. Feel how it has slowed since you entered this room. Feel how the warmth of the workshop and the sweetness of the beeswax air and the quiet of the room have already been working on you, already drawing the pace of your breath downward toward something gentler, something more in keeping with the rhythm of this place, the rhythm of candles burning, of wax cooling slowly, of embers settling in a hearth at the end of a long day. Your body recognizes this rhythm. It wants to match it. Let it. In, the beeswax sweetness fills your lungs completely. Out, something in your chest that has been tight since this morning loosens slightly. In, the warmth of the room enters with the breath. Out, the day leaves with the exhale. Move your gaze from the workbench flame to the hearth across the room. The embers there are doing their own quiet work. Simply this deep interior glow, red and orange at the heart of each ember. A color so warm it seems almost liquid, almost alive in a different way than the candle flames above. The candle flames are bright and upright and precise. The embers are low and wide and diffuse. Between the two, a room held perfectly. Not too bright, not too dark, not too hot, not too cold. The temperature of deep comfort, of a body that has nothing to complain of, and nothing to ask for. The iron wax pot on the hearthstone has cooled to the point where the wax inside it has fully solidified. A smooth, flat surface of pale amber across the top of the pot. The last of the day's work in wax captured in this final form. Tomorrow the fire will be rebuilt and the pot returned to its place above. The flames and the wax will melt again, and the work will begin again. But tonight the pot rests, the wax rests, the hearth rests. Everything in this room participating in the same deep communal rest that the workshop enters every night when the last tool is set down and the last task completed, and the candles are left to burn through the dark hours alone. Above you the hanging candles are still, so perfectly still they might be painted, each pair suspended from its dipping frame at precisely the same height as when it was hung, cooling slowly toward the temperature of the room, the beeswax contracting slightly as it cools, becoming denser, more solid, the surface of each taper taking on the slight sheen of fully set wax. They hang in rows the length of the workshop ceiling, 20 pairs, perhaps more, a harvest of light gathered and stored in waiting. Tomorrow they will be taken down and bundled and wrapped and carried to the market, where they will be sold and taken to homes and churches and great halls, and lit and burned and given away as the light they were always meant to become. But tonight they are here, hanging in the amber air of the workshop, pale and still and faintly luminous, where the burning candles below touch their surfaces with light. The shelves along the right wall hold the finished work of previous days, candles wrapped in linen, bundles of tapers tied with rough twine, small votive candles in wooden trays, all of it waiting with the patience of things that have been completed and have nothing left to do except exist in their finished form until they are needed. There is a deep satisfaction in looking at a shelf of finished work, in seeing the evidence of days well spent, of craft practiced faithfully, of the simple and profound act of taking raw materials and making from them something useful and beautiful and necessary. The herbs hanging from the beam nearest the window have been releasing their fragrance into the workshop air all day. Dried lavender and rosemary, and something else beneath both. Thyme, perhaps, or something more unusual that the candlemaker gathers from the meadows beyond the town in summer and dries and hangs here where their oils will slowly enter the wax of any candle cooling nearby, giving those candles something extra, something that makes the room they are burned in smell of summer meadows, even in the depths of winter, even in the coldest, darkest hour of the longest night. The combination of beeswax and dried herbs and old stone and candle smoke is unlike anything else. It is the smell of this particular place, of this particular history, of this particular way of spending a life making light for other people. You breathe it in fully. Let it settle into you. Let it become part of what this night is made of. It will stay with you, in the way that the smells of very special places always stay, long after you have left, long after the night has ended. Something in the body remembers. Dear traveler, find the low wooden stool near the end of the workbench. It has been here so long it has worn 2 slight depressions in the flagstone floor beneath its legs. It belongs to this spot the way the workbench belongs to this room. Completely, without question. Sit down on it now. Feel the wood beneath you. Solid, smooth, worn by years of the same person sitting in this same spot at the end of long working days. Resting exactly as you are resting now. Looking at the same embers. Breathing the same beeswax air. Letting the same warmth work its way through tired shoulders and a quieting mind. The candles burn. The embers glow. The hanging tapers cool in the still air above. The herbs release their slow fragrance into the warmth of the room. And outside the lane is dark and quiet, and the cobblestones are silver in the moonlight, and the stars are burning above the leaning rooftops with their ancient, faithful light. You are settled now. The stool holds you. The warmth surrounds you. The sweetness of the beeswax air moves in and out with every slow breath. And from somewhere beneath the quiet of the room, something even deeper is beginning to make itself known. A stillness beneath the stillness. A warmth beneath the warmth. Something the workshop has been building toward all evening without you knowing it. Something that is almost ready. The stool is warm beneath you now. It was cool when you first sat down. The wood holding the temperature of the room, rather than the temperature of a body. But bodies are generous things. They give their warmth freely to whatever they are in contact with. The stool has accepted yours. The wood beneath your legs and beneath your hands, where they rest on the edge of it, has taken on your heat and given something back in return. A kind of exchange, wordless, mutual, the simple transaction of a warm body and a willing surface finding a shared temperature and settling there together. This is what the workshop does to everything inside it. It absorbs. It holds. It gives back slowly. The stone walls have been absorbing the heat of the hearth fire all day. Every hour the fire burned and the wax melted and the work went on. The walls were taking that heat in through their thick gray surfaces and storing it deep in the stone. Now the fire is down to embers, and the working heat of the day is over, and the walls are returning what they took, slowly, over hours, radiating it back into the room in a gentle and continuous release that will last through the entire night and into the gray hours of early morning. The stone is a kind of memory. It remembers the warmth of the day and holds it faithfully until the day returns. You can feel it from where you sit, not as a single source of heat, the way the hearth was earlier, as something more ambient, more complete, surrounding. The warmth coming from the wall to your left, and the wall behind you, and the wall across the room with equal gentleness. No single point of origin. Simply warmth, everywhere. The room holding its own accumulated temperature, the way a cupped hand holds water, carefully, without spilling. Your hands in your lap are warm. Your arms are warm, where the workshop air touches them. Your face is warm. The back of your neck, where it was tight with the cold of the lane outside, has released completely. That particular tightness that lives in the neck and shoulders through every cold and effortful day, the one that builds through the morning and deepens through the afternoon, and is still there when you finally stop moving in the evening, that tightness is gone. The warmth of the workshop has worked its way through it, over the time you have been sitting here, quietly and without drama. The way warmth always works through tension when it is given enough time and the tension is finally allowed to yield. The candle on the workbench burns on. You have been watching it without consciously deciding to watch it. The eyes simply went there and stayed. The flame is so steady in this closed and windless room that it has become almost like a fixed point. Something that does not change. Something that can be returned to again and again and found exactly as it was. The same height. The same shape. The same quiet burning that neither increases nor decreases, but simply continues at its own perfect pace. There is something deeply calming about a thing that does not change, that does not demand anything, that does not surprise. The flame is the same now as it was when you entered. It will be the same in an hour. It asks nothing of you except to be near it, which you are. A pool of liquid wax around the wick of the workbench candle has widened slightly since you sat down. The heat of the flame melting the wax outward in a perfect circle. The liquid wax is completely clear. You can see the wick through it, dark and thin at the center of this small transparent lake. The surface of the liquid wax is absolutely still, not a ripple, not a movement. It reflects the flame above it in miniature, a tiny second flame burning in the liquid. The real flame and its reflection burning together in perfect synchrony, rising and returning, existing in two places at once, the flame above and the flame below meeting in the surface of the melted wax between them. Watch the edge of the wax pool where the liquid meets the solid. Here the wax is making its decision. On one side liquid, warm, moving with the heat. On the other side solid, cool, fixed, held, the very edge where the two meet. A line so fine, it is barely visible where the wax is neither fully one thing nor fully the other, where it exists in between, where the transition happens so gradually it cannot be pointed to exactly. This edge moves outward very slowly as the candle burns, so slowly it cannot be seen moving. Only if you look away and look back will you notice it has moved, the way sleep moves toward you, not arriving in a single moment, but advancing so gradually that you cannot say exactly when it arrived, only that it is here, now, and was not here before. The herbs above the workbench are more present to you now than they were earlier. Your nose has adjusted to the beeswax and found the layers beneath it. The lavender is the clearest, dry and sweet and slightly sharp. The smell of a summer hillside compressed into these hanging bundles and slowly released into the workshop air through the long months since they were gathered. Beneath the lavender, the rosemary, darker, more resinous, the smell of something that grew in thin rocky soil in strong sun, something that had to work hard to exist and developed a concentrated fragrance as a result. And beneath both of those something softer and harder to name, meadowsweet perhaps, or chamomile, something that was gathered at the edge of water in the long grass of a summer morning when the dew was still on everything. These smells belong to a different season, to warmth of a different kind, the warmth of open sky and long days in grass, underfoot rather than flagstone. And yet here in this winter workshop, at this deep hour of the night, They are present, kept. The workshop holds the summer in its hanging bundles the way it holds the day's warmth in its stone walls. Everything preserved, everything available. The workshop a kind of treasury of sensory memory, open all night to anyone willing to sit quietly enough to receive it. Dear traveler, feel the weight of your body on the stool right now. The full, honest weight of it pressing downward. The legs heavy, the hips heavy, the back heavy in a way that does not ask you to correct it, but simply acknowledges how long you have been upright today, how many hours the body has been carrying itself through the world. Let that weight increase now, not as a burden, as a blessing. The body finally allowed to be as heavy as it truly is, the pretense of lightness abandoned, the holding released. Just weight, just warmth, just the stool beneath you and the workshop air around you, and the slow, reliable rhythm of your breathing, moving in and out in the fragrant amber stillness of this ancient room. Your eyes are heavier too, not closing yet, but carrying more weight than they were an hour ago. The candlelight is soft enough that they do not have to work to look at it. It does not demand focus or adjustment. It simply exists at a level of softness that the eyes can rest within rather than looking at. The difference between looking at something and resting within its light. The workshop candles offer the second thing. Their light is not for seeing clearly. It is for being within, for existing inside a warm and bounded illumination that asks nothing of the eyes except that they be open or closed. Either is acceptable, either is right. The embers in the hearth are lower now. The glow has deepened from orange toward red, from the active burning red of a fire still working toward the darker, more meditative red of embers that have moved past effort into something else, into simple existence, into the last long patience of a fire that has done everything asked of it and is now simply present, warm, still, without ambition, without urgency. Present the way very old things are present, without needing to prove anything. The iron pot beside the hearth holds its solidified wax. Tomorrow it will melt again. A cycle will begin again. Wax to liquid, to candle, to flame, to light and warmth, for someone somewhere who needed illumination in the dark. The same cycle it has been since the first person discovered that wax could be shaped and burned and made to give something back. An ancient exchange. A gift that keeps moving. From flower to bead to wax to flame to light to darkness, touched and softened and made livable. The workshop is a station in that long journey, a place where the transformation happens, where raw material becomes gift. Everything in this room participates in that. The benches and the molds and the hanging frames and the herbs and the hearth and the stone walls and the old glass in the window and the flagstones beneath your feet. All of it part of the same patient and faithful work. All of it at rest now in the deep hours while the candles finish what was started in the daylight. The warmth is complete around you, total. There is no part of you that is not warm, no edge of cold remaining. The workshop has taken that from you entirely and replaced it with this, with the accumulated gentle heat of stone and candle and ember and beeswax, air and the simple generous warmth of a closed room that has been keeping its own company. faithfully through every hour of this long, still night. Dear traveler, something is changing in the quality of the silence. It was simply quiet before. Now it is becoming something more than quiet, something with texture, something you can almost feel on the skin, the way you feel warmth. The silence of this workshop in this hour is the silence of a place that has been holding its peace for so long that the peace itself has become a presence, a warmth of its own, reaching you through the candlelit air the same way the stone warmth reaches you, from every direction at once, without a single point of origin, simply everywhere, simply complete. The candle flame on the workbench barely moves. The embers breathe their deep red warmth into the room. The hanging candles above you are still and pale and cooling toward their final perfect form. The herbs release their summer memory into the winter air, and your breathing, so slow now, so deep, so perfectly matched to the rhythm of this room, of candles burning, of wax cooling, of warmth held and released and held again through the long, faithful hours of a candlemaker's night. Something deeper is waiting just ahead, something the body is already moving toward without being asked, without being guided, simply following the warmth and the quiet and the slow amber light down into a place that has no name, but that everybody knows from the inside. The night has reached its deepest point, not the latest hour, not the coldest, the deepest. There is a difference. Every night has a moment like this, an hour that exists somewhere in the long stretch between midnight and dawn, when the world has fully committed to its darkness, when even the creatures that move through the night have grown still, when the wind has dropped to nothing and the clouds have stopped moving and the stars are fixed and the whole turning world seems to pause, seems to hold its breath, seems to exist for one long suspended moment in a state of such complete and total stillness that the stillness itself becomes something you can feel, something with weight, something with presence, something that presses gently on every surface and says this is the deepest quiet. This is the bottom of the night. Rest here. The workshop knows this hour. You can feel it in the room. Something has shifted. Not in the candles, not in the embers, not in anything that can be pointed to or named. Something in the air itself, in the quality of the warmth, in the way the amber light sits differently on the stone walls now than it did an hour ago. Softer, more settled, as if the candlelight too has entered this deeper hour and adjusted itself accordingly, burning with less brightness, more depth. The difference between the surface of water in daylight and the same surface at midnight, the same water, the same surface, entirely different quality. The candle on the workbench has burned lower, noticeably lower than when you first sat down. The wax has traveled, consumed itself in the faithful service of the flame above. The candle is shorter now, the iron holder around it now visible where it was hidden before, behind the full height of the wax. The flame itself unchanged, the same height, the same steadiness, the same quiet burning, but sitting now atop a candle that is visibly, honestly, peacefully closer to its end than it was. There is nothing sad in this, nothing to mourn. The candle is doing exactly what it was made to do, spending itself completely in the act of giving light. There is no better way for a candle to end than this. Burning down in a warm and quiet room in the deep of the night, its light received, its warmth appreciated, its purpose fulfilled completely. The wax pool around the wick is wider now, too. The liquid circle larger, deeper. The flame has been working outward through the hours, and the wax has been following. The surface of the liquid wax perfectly still, perfectly clear. The miniature flame burning in its reflection below the real one above. Two flames, one candle. The real and the reflected existing together in the warm, still surface of the melted wax. Watch the flame. Not with effort, without effort. Let your eyes rest on it the way you rest your back against the stool. Simply supported by it, simply present with it. The flame does not ask to be watched. It does not perform. It simply burns. And in simply burning, it offers something that nothing more complicated can offer. A point of absolute stillness in a world that is otherwise always moving. A fixed thing, a reliable thing, a thing that will be exactly here, doing exactly this the next time you look, and the time after that. Your breathing has matched the flame. You may not have noticed when it happened, but the rhythm of your breath and the rhythm of the flame have found each other somewhere in the last quiet hour and settled into the same pace. In, on the slight, brightening of the flame as the wax feeds it fully. Out, on the slight settling as the wax is momentarily consumed. A conversation between your body and the candle carried on in the language of rhythm, of pulse, of the slow, reliable exchange of one state for another and back again. The ancient conversation between a living body and a living flame. Dear traveler, feel your hands right now, heavy in your lap, open, the palms facing upward or downward, whichever way they fell when you stopped arranging yourself and simply let them rest. Feel the warmth of the workshop air on the backs of them. Feel the slight weight of your fingers against your legs. These hands that have been working since morning, that have been reaching and carrying and holding and writing and pressing and gripping through every hour of the day since it began. They are still now. Finally, completely. They have nothing left to do tonight, and they know it, and they are grateful for the knowing. Let them be as heavy as they are. Let them rest in your lap with the full weight of everything they have done today, pressing them gently downward. They have earned this stillness. Every part of you has earned this stillness. The embers in the hearth are very low now. The glow has moved from red toward something deeper, darker. The embers are small now, reduced, each one a tiny concentrated point of heat, surrounded by the pale gray of cooling ash. The warmth they give is real but quiet, the warmth of something that has finished its work and is existing now in the long, peaceful aftermath of effort. The warmth of completion, of a fire that burned everything it was given to burn and is now simply present in the last of itself. Content, without urgency, without any need to be more than this last quiet glow in a deep stone hearth at the bottom of the night. The ash around the embers is pale, almost white in places, fine and soft. The most reduced form of the wood that was stacked here this morning. Oak, perhaps, or ash. Whatever the candlemaker uses for a fire hot enough to melt wax through a long working day. That wood existed as a tree once, grew in a forest somewhere outside this town, took decades to reach the size it was when it was felled, was split and seasoned and carried here and stacked and fed into this hearth and burned through an ordinary working day and is now this. Pale ash and deep embers and the faint smell of wood smoke absorbed so completely into the stone above that the hearth itself has become a kind of permanent record every fire ever lit within it. Everything in this room is a record of something. The worn flagstones, the wax-layered workbench, the smoke-darkened beams, the herbs slowly releasing the memory of a summer meadow into this winter air, the candle burning lower on its holder, the cooling wax in the iron pot, all of it holding its own history, all of it made of time as much as it is made of stone and wood and iron and wax. The workshop is a room, but is also an accumulation of days, of seasons, of the same work performed by the same hands in the same space, across years that blur into decades, that blur into the particular quality of age that very old working places have. That quality that has no better name than depth. You feel it in the floor beneath you and the walls around you and the air you are breathing. Depth, history, the weight of time made comfortable, made warm, made into this. The hanging candles above have fully cooled now. Their surface is set, finished, holding the final form they will carry to market tomorrow, and from there to wherever they are taken, each one carrying within it the warmth of its making, the heat of the fire that melted the wax, the warmth of the workshop air in which it cooled, the fragrance of the herbs that entered its surface as it hardened, all of that invisible now, sealed inside the pale wax, but present. The way warmth is present in stone, even when the fire that created it has long since burned down to ash. The candle on the shelf above the hearth has burned lower too, its flame the same, steady, faithful, burning at precisely the pace that this particular wick in this particular depth of wax requires. No faster, no slower. The flame knows its pace the way a river knows its channel, following the path of least resistance toward its destination, without any need for instruction or correction. The smell of the workshop has deepened in this hour. The beeswax warmer than before, richer, as if the deepening of the night has drawn more of its sweetness into the air, as if the darkness outside pressing against the old glass of the window has concentrated what exists within. The honey sweetness thick and smooth in every breath, the lavender beneath it dry and calm and faintly numbing in the way that lavender has always been faintly numbing to a mind that breathes it long enough, the rosemary beneath that, the meadowsweet or chamomile beneath that. Each layer of fragrance doing its own quiet work on the body and the mind of anyone sitting still enough and long enough to receive it. You have been still long enough. You have been here long enough. The workshop has had time to work on you, to warm you through completely, to slow your breathing to its own pace, to soften the edges of everything you brought in with you from the cold lane and the busy world beyond it. All of that is far away now. unreachable from this stool and this warmth, in this amber candlelit room that smells of honey and dried lavender and old stone, and the deep peaceful smell of a working place at rest. Dear traveler, your eyes are very heavy now, not fighting it, not being asked to fight it. The weight in them is welcome. It is the weight of a body that has received everything it needed. Tonight, warmth, fragrance, stillness, the slow company of candle, flames and cooling wax, and glowing embers, and the ancient faithful walls of a workshop that has been offering exactly this to anyone willing to sit quietly within it for as long as anyone can remember. The stool holds you. The warmth surrounds you. The flame on the workbench burns its steady amber burn. And something in the room, in the air, in the deep honey warmth of the beeswax and the lavender and the old stone breathing its stored heat back into the night, something is drawing you downward, not quickly, not suddenly, with the same patience as everything else in this room, with the same unhurried certainty as wax cooling, as embers deepening, as the night outside moving through its deepest hour toward the first impossible gray suggestion of a dawn still hours away, downward into something warmer than the room, deeper than the stillness, quieter than the silence. The candles are burning lower. The night is holding everything, and the last thing this room has to give you is already here, already moving through the warm amber air toward you, already entering with every slow breath, already becoming part of what you are in this moment and what this moment is becoming. The candles are burning at their lowest now, not gone, not guttering, not struggling, simply low, honest, the wax nearly spent on the workbench candle, the flame sitting closer to the iron holder than it was an hour ago, the pool of liquid wax around the wick wide and still and perfectly clear, the shelf candle lower too, the windowsill candle the lowest of all, having burned the longest, having given the most, its flame the smallest of the three, and yet still burning, still present, still offering its quiet amber light to this room, and to you within it without any reservation, without holding anything back. A candle does not save itself. It gives everything it has completely and without regret, and when it is done, and that is enough. That is more than enough. That is everything. The light in the workshop is different now because of this. Earlier when you arrived, the three flames together created a warmth of illumination that filled the room generously. Now with each flame lower and smaller, the light has drawn inward slightly. The corners of the room are deeper in shadow than before. The ceiling beams above are less visible. The hanging candles up there pale shapes in a darkness that has grown comfortable and complete around them. The light has not failed. It has concentrated, gathered itself toward its sources the way warmth gathers toward its sources in the last hours before dawn. The three small flames burning in their holders are still the center of everything, still warm, still amber, still faithful. But the room around them has grown darker, and in growing darker has grown more intimate, more enclosed, more like the inside of something safe and ancient, and holding rather than a room with walls and corners and a ceiling that can be seen. You are inside the light now, rather than inside the room. Earlier, you were in a room that contained light. Now you are in light that contains you. The three small flames have drawn the space close around you, made it the size of warmth rather than the size of walls. And that smaller, warmer space is the right size for this hour, for this breath, for this last slow descent into the deepest rest the night offers. Your body has grown very heavy. Not the comfortable heaviness of earlier hours, which was the heaviness of muscles, releasing tension and bones settling into rest. This is something beyond that. This is the heaviness of a body that has released everything, every last held thing. The tension is gone. The effort is gone. The performing of wakefulness is gone. What remains is simply the body itself in its truest state. Heavy, warm, breathing, alive in the most fundamental and undemanding way. Simply present, simply here. Simply occupying this warm space in this ancient workshop, in this deepest hour, without needing to be anything other than what it is. The stool beneath you holds all of that weight without effort. The floor beneath the stool holds the stool. The earth beneath the floor holds the building. Everything held by everything beneath it in a great patient chain that goes all the way down to the bedrock of the world itself. Nothing falling, nothing lost. Everything supported by the thing below it in the same way that sleep is supported by the wakefulness that precedes it, by the warmth and the quiet and the slow breathing and the candlelit stillness that have been preparing the way for it all evening. You have been moving toward this since you first stepped into the lane outside and smelled the beeswax on the night air. Every step since then has been a step toward here, toward this breath, toward this heaviness, toward this giving way. The beeswax in the air is the deepest it has been all night, rich and slow and completely surrounding. You are breathing it without noticing you are breathing it. It has become simply what air is in this place, what breathing is. The honey sweetness and the faint herb memory of the lavender and the rosemary and the summer meadow they came from, all woven together into a single fragrance that belongs to this room and this hour and this particular quality of rest, the way certain smells belong so completely to certain moments that they become inseparable from them. Years from now, in some completely different place and time, you may catch a thread of this smell. Beeswax warm in a room, dried lavender nearby, something resinous beneath both. And for a moment, just a moment, you will be back here in this workshop, in this warmth, in this last amber light, in this complete and total peace. The embers in the hearth are nearly gone. A faint red glow at the very center of the ash, the last of them. The final warmth of a fire that has been giving everything it had since morning. The room will hold its heat long after these last embers go dark. The stone has everything stored. Everything that is needed for the night is already in the walls, already in the air, already in you. Nothing more is required from the fire. It has done its work completely. It is resting now in its own last warmth. Patient, peaceful, finished. Your thoughts have changed entirely. Earlier when you entered the workshop, your mind was still carrying the texture of the day, not the content. Not the specific details, but the texture. The feeling of a mind that has been active and responsive and engaged for many hours and carries that engagement as a kind of residue. A hum, a readiness, a subtle inability to fully stop, even when stopping is what is needed. That residue is gone now. The warmth has dissolved it. The beeswax air has softened it. The slow hours of candlelit stillness have replaced it with something entirely different. Something that has no hum in it, no readiness, no leaning toward what comes next. Only this, only now. Only the warmth and the darkness and the slow breath and the last small flames burning faithfully in the deep of the night. Thoughts come occasionally, very slowly. They drift through the warm space of the mind and continue on without stopping, and are gone before they became anything requiring a response. And the mind watches them go without following, without reaching, simply present in its own stillness, the way the room is present in its own stillness, holding everything loosely, releasing everything easily. The workbench candle flame is very small now. The wax is nearly spent. A flame sits so close to the iron holder that the holder itself is warm. The light it gives is the gentlest yet intimate, the light of something in its last giving, but still giving, completely, without reservation. The flame the same shape it has always been, the same blue at its base, the same amber above, the same bright point at its tip, small now but perfect, unchanged in its essential nature by the hours of burning, still itself, still faithful, still the same flame it was when the wick was first touched by fire this evening, only now closer to the end of its particular burning, which is not an ending but a completion, which is not a loss but a fulfillment. Dear traveler, you are at the same place now that the candle is at. Not the ending, the completion, the fulfillment. The place where everything that was needed has been given and received, and the body and the mind have. Both arrived at the thing they were always moving toward beneath all the activity and effort of the day. You are here, completely here. In the warmth and the amber darkness and the beeswax air of this ancient workshop at the bottom of the night, there is nowhere else to be, nothing else to do. No next thing waiting to be attended to. Only this breath. Only this warmth. Only the last small flames burning in their holders, and the pale hanging candles above in the darkness, and the deep stone walls holding everything in their faithful arms. Sleep is not coming. Sleep is here. It has been here for some time, moving through the warm air toward you, the way the beeswax fragrance moved through the air toward you when you first stood on the doorstep outside, slowly, completely, without announcement, simply arriving and surrounding and entering through every breath until it is simply what the air is, what breathing is, what this moment is. Let it. There is nothing to do except let it. The stool holds you. The warmth surrounds you. The last flames burn their last amber light across the ancient surfaces of this room, and across your closed eyelids, and across the darkness behind them, where everything is warm and still and complete. The candles burn lower. The embers breathe slower. The beeswax air moves in and out with every breath you take. Deeper. The workshop holds everything in its ancient stone arms through the last long hours of the night. The hanging candles cool toward their finished form above. The wax in the iron pot rests in its solidified stillness beside the hearth. The herbs release the last of their summer fragrance into the deep winter air. The flagstone floor holds the memory of every foot that has ever crossed it. The walls hold the warmth of every fire ever burned within them, and you, here held, warm, complete. The day is done. The work is done. The journey through the candlelit warmth of this ancient workshop is done. You came in from the cold lane, carrying everything the day gave you, and you have set it all down here in this warm and fragrant room, and the room has received it without complaint and will hold it safely until morning. Rest now, deeply, completely. The candles will burn through the last of their wax and go out one by one in the small hours, and the workshop will rest in its own darkness and its own warmth until the dawn comes gray and quiet through the old glass of the window and the day begins again. But that is hours away, and you will be sleeping through every one of those hours, warm and held and breathing the deep, sweet air of the Candlemaker's workshop, safe in the amber darkness, safe in the ancient stone warmth, safe in the faithful keeping of a place that has been offering exactly this to exactly those who needed it for longer than memory reaches. Sweet dreams, dear traveler. The candles kept their watch tonight. Now they rest, and so do you. Sleep now. Goodbye.